All right guys, welcome back to another video. We are going through another wireless pet collar. This one is probably going to be the fastest and easiest to set up of the bunch that I've been through so far. So I'm interested to see how it stacks up to some of the other collars that I have used before. This video is sponsored by PetZee. They sent me this to review, but they didn't ask that I use any talking points or anything specific. They just asked that I run through and make a video like I have for the Spot On or the Halo or the Boostnik or the PetSafe collars that I've used. So I feel like I have inadvertently become a dog collar review person. So that was never the goal. It's just apparently something I've become well versed in. Hopefully you guys find this video helpful. So one reason I'm particularly excited to run through this solution and see for myself how it performs is because it's one of the few really budget-friendly solutions. So outside of the Boostnik collar, which doesn't provide any automatic feedback, you're gonna rely on the remote, the rest of these can get kind of pricey. The in-ground pet fence isn't too terrible, but the Halo at, I think it's $549 now, and the Spot On pet fence you can find for $8.99 on sale, but those are pretty expensive and might be inaccessible. So this at $139 on Amazon right now might be a good solution for people because it is affordable. So when I say the Boostnik is affordable, it does come with some trade-offs. So it requires a remote to give feedback, so you have to constantly be watching your dog, which isn't a bad thing, but we may want some automatic feedback. And the reason I like automatic feedback is its consistency. And I feel like training goes better with consistency. So a little note or a warning on these electronic dog collars. If you don't have any experience with them, they're not like a solid fence. They are a deterrent, but they're not a barrier. So they do require training to work properly, but it's not like your dog is in a fenced yard. You have to train them to respond properly to the signals, and that's going to be a tone and a vibrate and a static shock to reinforce it if the first two don't work. Ultimately, with any of these, training is key. I like to say to my wife, I like to set my dogs up for success. I don't try and crank them up before someone walks through the door. Otherwise, someone's gonna get jumped all over. I like to take them for walks in the morning, tire them out, so when we're not home and we're at work, they're not being rambunctious in the house or getting into trouble. So just like that, training is key with these. It's the best way to set them up for success when using any of these collars. So first impressions, it's reasonably well packaged. It comes with all the important bits and bobs to make it work. So we got the collar, we've got spare batteries, we have a charging cable and a charging brick, which can be nice. Not everything comes with a charging brick nowadays, so I don't have to go hunting for one. We get a little test pad, so we don't have to walk around shocking ourselves. We can look at a light. And we get a couple of different length prongs, which is perfect if you have long-haired or short-haired dogs. You can use the appropriate length. And then last but not least, a manual. And there's a lot of good little tidbits in here on how to set this up, but we're gonna try our best to run through all the really pertinent information for you guys to help you guys make an informed buying decision should you be shopping for any of these. Like this whole unit, and like a lot of things nowadays, you're gonna find it on Amazon. Replacement batteries are there, and they're comparably priced to the PetSafe ones. A 6-pack looks like it currently runs about 20 bucks. And you might run through 2 or 3 a year, so the long-term cost to run these isn't terrible. So where and when would you use something like this? This collar is not going to be your everyday collar. It's not going to be something you put your dog tags on, and you're not going to take your dog for a walk in this. This is something we're going to put on them when they're in the yard, and then when we come in the house, we're going to want to take it off. That way, these prongs don't cause any sort of irritation. It's not really a 24/7 collar, so keep that in mind. Any of the collars, electronic collars like this, are going to come with that same recommendation. You use it when they're outside, you take it off when they're inside to give them a break. So who is this for? For starters, like I mentioned earlier, it's for the budget conscious. It's less expensive than a wired system, and it's certainly easier to set up. And it's much less expensive than a GPS system, which can run from $500 to $1,000, and some of those require an ongoing subscription. So that's something to bear in mind too. But that's where the trade-offs start to come into play. This functions great as a remote fence, and that's all it's going to be. But we're not going to have things like custom boundaries, multiple boundaries. We're not going to get real-time tracking or feedback on your dog's activity. If those kinds of things are really important to you, you don't get that with this. This is just a keep your dog in the yard kind of pet fence. This could also be a good solution for you if you're not able to bury a wired fence. So the in-ground pet fence wired solutions are also reasonably budget friendly, but they require a fair amount of work. Or maybe you can't dig up your driveway like I did. If it's paved, you might have to saw cut it, and a lot of people don't have the tools for that, or you have to have that professionally done. Last scenario I can kind of think of right off the bat here is hey, maybe you're renting and you can't install something permanent like an in-ground pet fence. This would be a good solution for that. It's easy to set up, it's easy to take with you if you move to a different place. So there's a nice possible alternative to why this might work for you as well. So the base station here is going to broadcast a signal that creates a big circle in your yard. So types of yards that this is going to work for best are probably ones that you have an area in a circular distance around your house, in this big circle around your house that you want your dog to be able to go. If you've got like a really oblong shaped lot and you want them to have access to the entire thing, this probably can't do that, but there are certainly, I think, a lot of yards that this is appropriate for. Mine's kind of hilly and odd shaped, but even I think I could get away with this if I really wanted to. So features, this does have a couple of nice features that I do like. It has several levels and it comes with a gentle alert first. So that is a tone, not a static correction. I find my Doodle responds best to tones only. I have actually never used a static correct or a vibrate on my Doodle to correct her behaviors or try and keep her in the yard. It was entirely unnecessary, so that's nice that this can be set up that way, because your dog might respond really well to tones only, and then you don't have to take those extra steps. All right, also the range is going to be adjustable on this. Anywhere from 40 to about 390 feet, and all we're going to do to adjust that is press the plus and the minus to change the distance. Pretty straightforward, and I really like that. All right, so a couple of features on here that I was not expecting to find. First is I am plugged in right now, and I'm going to unplug it with the power on. So let's say we lost power. Nice little audible alert that your fence has lost power and that you probably should go get your dog. So that's really cool. And USB-C. Minor detail, but I really love when companies are forward thinking and just use the latest standard. So props to PetZee for that. All right, so for setup, this is where this solution I think really shines. It's quick, it's easy, there's no tedious digging like the wired fence that I talked about. We're just going to identify a location that this will work well and is going to serve as the center of your fence. So I've got a spot out in my garage that's going to be in the center of my yard, and I think it's going to work really well. So this location should be ventilated and not outside in the elements. We don't want to place the transmitter in any small enclosed spaces or near metal surfaces, things that are going to interfere with the signal. So I've got mine outside here in the garage, just temporarily on the workmate while I do some testing. But a note on garage doors, mine are fiberglass. If yours are metal, this would be a terrible location. So like a lot of those other locations we talked about, metal tables and surfaces, and over in front of your electrical panel, or big, large metal objects, not great, will not help you while you're trying to set this guy up. All right, so I found my central location. I am plugged in. And now it's time to finish the setup. So this really is pretty straightforward. The user manual has a pretty good table on the radius that you're gonna get by adjusting the size of the fence. I'm probably just gonna go with 4. I'm gonna put some flags out and see how well this triggers and how repeatable it is. But let's set a correction level too, and that's nice and straightforward. I'm gonna press and hold the minus button for about a couple of seconds here, and it starts flashing. It says C and then a number, so that's correction level 1. That's going to be gentle or tone only. And then we can turn it up some. So I'm going to turn it up some, that way my test light works. And then to save it, we're going to press and hold the minus button again, all set. And then the collar beeped 3 times to confirm that it got the update. So nice and easy, and we're off to the races.
That's a good boy. Oh, that's a good boy. That's a good boy.
All right, so after quite a bit of walking around, this was actually a lot harder to set up than I anticipated. And that really comes down to this little test light. This test light in the sun is borderline impossible to see. So if I have any feedback at all for PetZee, it is gonna be, this needs to be like a louder tone or a brighter light, but a dim LED in a black case on a sunny day made this exercise of placing flags one heck of a workout, because there was a lot of back and forth and back and forth, and am I shaking it enough? And I think I was shaking it enough. It was just seeing the light was pretty difficult. As it turns out, my garage test area was a terrible, terrible idea. I moved it to a more consistent location on the 2nd floor, in the garage, between garage door open, garage door closed, vehicles nearby. I got a wildly inconsistent signal, so stay away from garages. That was definitely my mistake. And that contributed to some of this, why isn't this working the way I expected it? So garage test area, bad idea. I got mine up on the 2nd floor now. I get a much more consistent signal out of it that way. Finding a good location is absolutely paramount and important to making this function correctly. If you place it in an area like I did initially trying to do my testing next to a car, you're gonna be walking around wondering why this doesn't work well for you. So keep that in mind. Location, location, location. All right, so final thoughts on the PetZee Pet Fence. It does come with everything you need to set up a wireless pet fence or set up a electronic fence in your yard for your dog. So I'm gonna give them credit for that. It comes with all the basics. You're probably gonna need to buy some extra flags though, depending on the diameter of the fence you set up. So keep that in mind. Those are actually pretty cheap. You probably can get more of those for like 10, 15 bucks tops. So the one area that I wish PetZee would improve this is the light. So it made it kind of frustratingly difficult to deploy the flags. Not impossible, but just difficult enough that made me go, boy, I really wish there was a better solution for this. So do it later in the day when it's dark or overcast. Bright sunlight, forget it. It's just, it's probably not worth the effort. You're gonna wanna do it later. So to buy or not to buy? For me, I love my in-ground wired fence. Out of everything I've tested, the in-ground wired fence is the most consistent and the most reliable solution that I have used, and I continue to use it today, even though I have a halo collar and a spot-on collar and all these other solutions. When we're at home, I'm using it because I really feel like I don't have to worry about it. It just works. Those GPS collars, though, can be prohibitively expensive for a lot of people. So if you can't do an in-ground wired solution and you're on a budget, this is a good alternative. Just be prepared to stick through the setup process a little bit potentially. And you're also going to want to check the other checkbox of, do you have a good location in your home that is free from large metal obstructions or things that can cause interference? My initial thought of testing this in the garage was horrible. It didn't matter that my garage doors were fiberglass and not metal. That was the only thing that was going through my head. The cars, and I actually have a steel kind of man door, passageway door right next to my garage doors that I entirely overlooked. So give your house a really good look around and make sure you've got an area that is free of obstructions for this guy. If you do, and like I did after I realized what I was doing, it does work. But if you set this up somewhere inappropriate, you're really gonna struggle with it. And that's something to keep in mind. So, all right, so as you guys are shopping for a potential electronic collar solution for your yard, ask yourself the questions like, what kind of budget am I working with? What kind of constraints does my yard give me? Can I bury a wire or not? And those are really gonna help you guide yourself into a solution. If you can bury a wire, do that. If you got the budget for a GPS collar, I would say do that, because you can track your dogs should they escape. You can just pull it up on your phone and be like, oh, yep, I know exactly where they are. I personally love that. Are there people out there that I think that this is appropriate and good for? Absolutely. I do believe there are people out there who are on a budget who just need an electronic dog fence. So at the end of the day, I hope you guys take the time to consider this to see if it's appropriate for your yard and if it would work well for your dogs. I really enjoyed the opportunity of checking this kind of solution out. I have yet to use a radio style dog collar, and this was an interesting experience to compare it to those others that I've tried. So thanks for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed this and found it helpful in your decision making process. So I will catch you guys in the next video.